We've all felt that pressure to just stay positive, to smile through the pain, to find the silver lining in every dark cloud, no matter how sharp the edges cut. You might even carry guilt when you can't manage it, when sadness creeps in despite your best efforts to push it away. But here's the quiet truth. That relentless pursuit of constant happiness isn't leading you toward peace. It's a lie disguised as wisdom, and it's quietly exhausting you in ways you might not even realize. The pressure to maintain perpetual positivity has become so embedded in our culture that we've forgotten something essential. We're human beings, not happiness machines. Today we're going to explore why embracing your full emotional spectrum, including the difficult parts, is the only path to genuine well-being. When you force yourself to stay positive all the time, something subtle but devastating happens inside you. You start treating your authentic emotions like enemies to be defeated rather than messengers trying to help you. Think about what happens when you feel sad, angry, or afraid, and someone immediately tells you to look on the bright side or everything happens for a reason. That response doesn't make the feeling disappear. It just teaches you that your inner experience is wrong, inconvenient, or unacceptable. This is what psychologists call toxic positivity, and it creates a kind of internal split. On the surface, you're performing happiness, gratitude, and optimism. But underneath, your real emotions are still there, now accompanied by shame for having them in the first place. It's like being a gardener who only waters the flowers while ignoring the roots. The surface might look beautiful for a while, but the foundation is slowly dying. Your emotional roots, the sadness that signals loss, the anger that points to injustice, the fear that warns of danger, these aren't flaws to be fixed. They're essential parts of your human experience. But when you constantly suppress these feelings, your body keeps the score. The tension builds in your shoulders, sleep becomes elusive, you feel disconnected from yourself, like you're watching your life through glass rather than living it directly. The exhaustion that comes from this emotional performance is profound. You're not just managing your actual circumstances, you're also managing the constant effort to appear okay when you're not. It's like running two full-time jobs, living your life and pretending your life is something else entirely. This creates what I call the guilt spiral. You feel bad, then you feel bad about feeling bad, then you feel bad about not being able to just get over it, like everyone seems to expect. Each layer adds more weight, more shame, more distance from your authentic self. The cruelest part is that this approach actually makes genuine happiness more elusive. When you can't acknowledge your pain, you also can't process it, learn from it, or move through it. Instead, it gets stuck, creating a kind of emotional constipation that blocks your capacity for real joy. You start living in a strange paradox where you're working harder than ever to be happy while feeling increasingly empty inside. The more you deny your authentic experience, the more disconnected you become from the very emotions that could guide you toward actual healing and growth. Your relationships begin to suffer too, because people can sense when someone isn't being real with them. There's something unsettling about interacting with someone who's always fine. It creates distance rather than connection. Others start to feel like they can't be authentic around you either, because your constant positivity suggests their struggles aren't welcome. The hidden cost of emotional denial isn't just personal, it ripples outward, creating a culture where everyone feels pressure to perform happiness while secretly struggling alone. When you're constantly performing positivity, something strange happens in your relationships. People start to feel like they're interacting with a carefully constructed version of you rather than the real person underneath. Think about it from their perspective. When someone shares their struggles with you and you immediately respond with, "at least," or "you should just," or "everything happens for a reason," you're essentially telling them their feelings are wrong. You're not offering comfort, you're offering correction. This creates an invisible barrier between you and the people you care about. They learn, often without realizing it, that bringing their authentic emotions to you isn't safe. Your relentless positivity becomes a signal that their pain, their fears, their genuine human struggles aren't welcome in your presence. The loneliness that results from this is profound. You might be surrounded by people, but nobody really knows you. They know the version of you that's always grateful, always optimistic, always finding the bright side. But they don't know the person who sometimes feels lost, scared, or overwhelmed because you've made that person invisible. Your loved ones start to sense this emotional distance, even if they can't name it. There's something unsettling about being around someone who never seems to struggle, never seems to have a bad day, never seems genuinely affected by life's inevitable difficulties. It doesn't feel real because it isn't real. This creates a terrible irony. In your effort to be positive and pleasant, you actually become harder to connect with. People begin to feel like they have to perform around you too, matching your energy, pretending their problems aren't that serious, minimizing their own experiences to fit the emotional climate you've created. The burden this places on your relationships is enormous. Your family members, friends, and partners find themselves walking on eggshells, not because you're angry or difficult, but because your positivity feels fragile and demanding. They worry that sharing their real struggles might disturb your carefully maintained emotional equilibrium. It's like trying to breathe with an oxygen mask that only delivers happy air. Everyone around you starts to suffocate from the lack of emotional authenticity, but nobody knows how to say it without seeming ungrateful or negative. Your children, if you have them, learn that certain emotions aren't acceptable in your family. They watch you suppress your own difficult feelings and absorb the message that being human, with all the messy, complicated emotions that entails, is somehow wrong or shameful. The cruelest part is that this approach actually prevents the deep connections you're probably craving. Real intimacy requires vulnerability, and vulnerability means acknowledging when things are hard, when you're struggling, when you don't have all the answers. When you finally do have moments of authentic emotion, when the mask slips and your real feelings show through, the people around you often don't know how to respond. They've been trained by your consistent positivity to believe that your struggles either don't exist or shouldn't be acknowledged. This creates a cycle where your relationships become increasingly superficial, focused on maintaining the illusion rather than exploring the truth. Conversations stay on the surface. Real problems go unaddressed. Everyone learns to perform rather than connect. The paradox is devastating. In your attempt to be the positive, uplifting person everyone wants to be around, you actually become someone people feel they can't be real with. Your relationships become performances rather than connections, leaving everyone involved feeling lonely and misunderstood. Here's what changes everything. Your difficult emotions aren't problems to be solved. They're information to be received. Sadness tells you something important was lost. Anger signals that a boundary was crossed or a value was threatened. Fear warns you to pay attention, to be careful, to protect what matters. These feelings aren't character flaws or spiritual failures. They're your internal guidance system working exactly as designed. The difference between emotional suppression and emotional regulation is crucial. Suppression tries to make feelings disappear. Regulation acknowledges them, understands their message, and then chooses how to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. When you feel sad, instead of immediately trying to think positive thoughts, you might ask, what am I grieving? What do I need to honor about this loss? When anger arises, rather than pushing it down with gratitude lists, you might explore, what boundary needs attention here? What am I being called to protect? This doesn't mean wallowing or letting emotions control your behavior. It means treating your feelings like the valuable information they are, listening first, understanding the message, and then deciding consciously how to move forward. Genuine happiness isn't the absence of difficult emotions. It's the capacity to experience the full spectrum of human feeling without being overwhelmed by any single emotion. It's emotional flexibility rather than emotional rigidity. Think of your emotions like weather patterns. You don't try to stop rain from falling or prevent winter from coming. You acknowledge the weather, prepare appropriately, and trust that conditions will change naturally over time. Emotional weather works the same way. When you stop fighting your authentic experience and start honoring it, something beautiful happens. You become more present, more grounded, more genuinely connected to yourself and others. People sense this authenticity and are drawn to it because it gives them permission to be real too. This approach actually leads to more sustainable well-being because it's based on truth rather than performance. You're not constantly exhausting yourself trying to maintain an impossible standard. Instead, you're learning to work with your emotional reality rather than against it. The goal isn't to eliminate difficult emotions, it's to develop a healthy relationship with all of your emotions, to see them as temporary visitors rather than permanent residents, as messengers rather than masters. Real peace comes not from constant happiness, but from the deep acceptance of your full human experience. When you stop trying to be perfect and start trying to be whole, you discover a kind of contentment that no amount of forced positivity could ever provide. The quiet truth is this: your authentic emotions, including the difficult ones, aren't obstacles to your well-being. They're essential parts of it. Real peace comes from acceptance, not denial. If this resonated with you, share your thoughts below about your own experience with emotional authenticity. Hit the subscribe button if you want more conversations like this.